First off, who's to blame here? And what could they have done differently? Is this a new virus, or was this a pre-existing condition and this was just his time? And could he have received better medical treatment on the actual airplane? This is an absolutely horrific tale that sounds more like a horror movie than a real life event. And if an open conversation is something you prefer, then this is the place for you. Welcome to The Point, so let's talk about it. A 63 unidentified German man and his wife were boarding an Airbus A380 Lufthansa flight from Thailand to Germany. Now, it would be his wife that said them rushing to the flight was what made him ill and had him not feeling well. And my initial question would be, when has rushing to a flight ever made somebody so noticeably sick? And here's what I'm talking about. A specialized nurse who works at a German university hospital, Karen Missfelder, said she noticed he had cold sweats, that he was visibly sick and breathing very rapidly. And none of that sounds even remotely close to anything that would be caused from simply rushing to a flight. Now, Missfelder would be the one to notify the staff that this individual needed medical attention immediately. And according to the reports, they would go over the intercom and ask if anybody was a doctor. And a young Polish man reportedly came to his aid, and some articles have said he was around the age of 30. And I have a few questions after hearing about what was reported that he did. Now, according to reports, they said that the doctor checked his pulse, asked him if he was okay, and then told the staff he was fine. So is this an indicator of our current level of education for young doctors? And here's what I mean. To me, it sounds like he received the exact same type of treatment a first semester individual who is training to become an EMT would receive at a trade school. Now, couldn't he have checked his blood pressure, or did he check his blood pressure and that not make it into the report? Or could that individual have started pressing on various parts of his body to see if there was any indication of an acute pain which could help identify the problem? But none of that happened, according to what I read. In fact, after the doctor had said he was okay, they gave him some tea and said, "Here you go, drink this." But he would not be okay, because around the time he was receiving his tea, he was also spitting up his own DNA into a bag that his wife was holding. So how on earth was he okay? And did the doctor offer any type of follow-up questions beyond "how are you feeling"? Now, like a scene from Last Train to Busan, or that airplane scene from World War Z, what happens next is absolutely horrific. It was reported that his DNA would end up all over the walls, on the floor, and on himself as this stuff was pouring out of his mouth and nose. Now, one individual on the plane had said that he had to have lost a liter of his DNA through his mouth and nose at this point. And he makes the statement this was an absolutely horrific scene. And the passengers on the plane were screaming. Now, towards the end, it was reported that the staff tried to do CPR, but they would ultimately determine that that man had passed. And when it was announced over the intercom, the whole plane went silent. Now, of course, a lot of the passengers were mourning the loss of an individual. But not to make light of the situation, but I would almost guarantee there were at least a handful of individuals who were probably waiting for this guy to pop back up again. Ultimately, the plane would turn around to Bangkok and land, and the unidentified passenger would find his way into the back of an ambulance. Now, it was reported that the passengers had waited around 2 hours before they received any type of instructions on what they were going to do next, and they would ultimately take another flight from Thailand that would stop in China, I believe, and then end up back in Germany. The tragedy as a whole is absolutely heartbreaking. So who is really at fault here? Is it the airline's fault or their responsibility to better screen passengers before they get on a plane so they don't have to cause any delays, and if that individual needs medical attention, they can receive it quicker on ground rather than in the air? Because as reported, this individual was noticeably sick. Or is it that man and his wife's fault for boarding the plane and disregarding his health and lacking the accountability to understand that if something happens midair, the flight's going to have to turn around and it's going to cause delays for everybody. Did he receive the appropriate care while in the plane? I understand that the medical help would have been limited to begin with, but if the reports are true and all this man did was check his pulse and ask him if he's okay, that doesn't sound like an appropriate level of immediate care. There's much more follow-up questions you could ask beyond "are you okay? Does anything hurt?" They could have possibly moved joints, and as I said earlier, they could have pressed on various parts of his body to see if he would have given any type of indication of pain in that area. And was this a new virus or just a pre-existing medical condition? Now, some online reports, of course, have said that this is a new virus and this is going to sweep across the world. Everybody needs to be ready. While others have toned it down a little bit and said there could have been any number of internal factors to cause what happened to happen. I'm curious about your thoughts. You can let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Y'all stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.